Well, everybody having fun so far? Unfortunately, I have some bad news. The next speaker couldn't make it, so David and I are just going to play catch out here for a little bit. I'm just kidding. It's really exciting, and this is the part of the day where we kind of break up the monotony of investments and talk a little bit more about leadership. I think that's been going, permeates through a lot of the teams that we heard about this morning, and we're going to hear about later today as well. But I'm going to read you some things because as doing research for the questions for our next guest, I had to, get up to speed on everything this particular person has accomplished. So this person holds the NFL record for career passing yards, 80,358 yards. He's got the highest career completion percentage at 67%, completing 7,142 completions. The most consecutive games with a touchdown, 54. The most seasons leading the league in passing, 7. The most seasons with 5,000 passing yards, 5. The most 300-yard games, 123. The most 4.5-hour games, 16. He also holds the significant Saints records, including career passing yards, 68,010. He was also inducted to the New Orleans Hall of Fame, and he's on the docket to be added to the NFL Hall of Fame. But rather than me actually just read these stats, I thought a video could say it even better than me.
All right, baby, here we go. It's our time. Seize the moment. Who is that? Who is that? Who is that? Who is that? Who that? Who that? Who that? What we do? What we do? What we do? Who? If y'all in, give it 3 cuts. Give it 3 cuts. Give it 3 cuts. Let's go, baby. Win on 3. 1, 2, 3. Win.
Flutie holding, scrambling, moving right, in trouble. It's going to be sacked.
And Flutie is still down.
Drew Brees is coming in the game.
Yeah, you know what? I have every bit of confidence in this kid.
Here's Brees. Pump fake and throw. Touchdown!
Drew Brees, baby. What a young player. What an arm.
Touchdown.
Touchdown! Touchdown! You gotta be kidding me.
Touchdown! 38-yard touchdown strike. Looks to his right, throws into the flat. Bush diving for the pylon. He's in! Here's Brees throwing over the middle. Catch by Sproles. 10, 5, touchdown!
Brees lofting it downfield. C.J. Spiller on the run. Go, C.J. Go!
400th touchdown of Brees' career.
Ladies and gentlemen, Drew Brees. Thanks for being here, man.
All right, how's it going? Is it okay?
All right, so we're going to open it up to questions, about 10 minutes left in this session, but what an impressive life and career, all the records you've set. But there's some other records that you've set that are off the field that I think are equally or maybe more important, and that is you've been married to your college sweetheart since inception, 4 children, 3 sons, 1 daughter, and here's one that I love, which is your top 4 priorities, which are faith, family, football, and philanthropy, the 4 Fs. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I promise you I'm not a dumb jock when I say the 4 Fs. Bottom line, that was really, look, never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd ever have a chance to become a professional football player or play for 20 years. I consider that a dream come true, but I also consider that something that carried a lot of responsibility. And each and every day, really for a period of, I retired at age 42. Football was a huge priority in my life, I'd say, for 28 of those 42 years. So call it my 4 years of high school, my 4 years of college, and 20 years in the NFL. So 28 out of 42, 2/3 of my life was dedicated, in many cases, to being the very best football player that I could be, the best quarterback I could be, the best leader that I could be for my team. Well, what was going to allow me to do that? Well, first and foremost, faith. My faith, the way that I woke up each and every day, created the non-negotiables for myself as to the type of person I wanted to be, the type of relationship that I wanted to have with God and with my Christian faith, the way I wanted to project that with not only just my thoughts, my words, my deeds. That was first and foremost. My family. Look, football required so much time away from them, and yet there were still the non-negotiables each and every day that I made sure were present, that was quality time with family, because at the end of the day, that's what recharged me. That's what made me feel like everything that I was doing was worthwhile and was worth really striving for and purposeful. So faith, family, then came football, and then that platform gave us the opportunity as a family to do a lot of our philanthropic work, which obviously being in a city like New Orleans, 6 months post-Katrina, with so much of the devastation that took place and so much that was needed, it just gave us the opportunity to step in and just play our part in the recovery of one of America's greatest cities.
Well, you mentioned faith because, and I think it's really important to your career. Obviously, being in San Diego, hadn't played for the Chargers, the faith must have got you through the adversity. Can you talk to us about that what happened here, how you got to the Saints, and how your faith carried you through?
Yeah, I mean, really, that takes me back to even high school. High school, I grew up in Austin, Texas. I went to, there was one, all right, okay. I grew up in Austin, Texas. I went to a high school called Westlake High School. We were kind of a perennial powerhouse, 5A football, which is kind of the big school at the time. They're now 6A. I had this interesting road in high school where I kind of moved into the district as a freshman. Year one, I'm like the 6th string quarterback, and then I worked my way up to being the backup my sophomore year, but then I almost quit football because the guy who was in front of me was like the heir apparent, and there was no way I was ever going to beat this guy out. And baseball was really my number one sport. So there was a moment where during training camp of my sophomore year, my mom picks me up from practice. She could see that I'm kind of down in the dumps. We pull into the garage, and I'm like, Mom, I think I'm going to quit football. And she's like, why would you do that? And I said, well, because Johnny Rodgers is in front of me, and he's a stud, and I'm never going to play. Why am I wasting my time with football? I need to, focus on baseball, because that's really where I see, my future maybe at the next level. And she's like, well, do you love it? Yeah. Do you love being around your friends? Yeah, I love the competition. I love everything about it. I just don't think I'm ever going to get a chance to play. And she says, you never know when your opportunity will come. And plus, you committed to it this year, so you're going to stick it out, and we'll have this conversation every year. And then a week later, Johnny Rodgers tears his ACL, and all of a sudden, I'm the starting quarterback on JV, and we go 10-0, and then the next year I'm the starter on varsity, and the rest is history. But at the end of that junior season, it was probably the best team we had ever had at our high school. And our school, as good as we had been, we had never won a state championship. We had been really close a lot of times, but this was our year, 1995. And at the deep into the playoffs that year, sure enough, I come off of a play, and I end up getting hit, blindside, go down, my knee buckles, and I had torn my ACL. And so there was truly a moment there where all of a sudden, the whole reason I was in this position is because that guy had gotten hurt, and now I got hurt with the same injury, so it's all kind of being ripped away from me, and this is no longer my path. And so I was just in that, up until that point, I had been in that, I think, of the mindset that athletics was my identity, right? That was, it's what I love to do, but it's also just how I maybe identified, with myself, and maybe the way I felt like everybody else identified with me. Right. And so it just forced me to ask myself the question, if football or if sports was not a part of my life, then who am I really, and what do I represent? Right. And that's when I gave my life to Christ. It's when I got baptized. It's when I completely shifted my mindset. And honestly, with that came such a sense of gratitude. Mm-hmm. I'm not entitled to play this game. Like, I get the opportunity to play this game, and I get the opportunity to be a great teammate to others and try to be a great leader to others and be the quarterback of this team and lead this community and that sort of thing. And I just carried that with me wherever I went, and obviously it came in handy when it came to the big injury when I left the San Diego Chargers. Right. For those Charger fans in the room, I never wanted to leave San Diego. Okay, that was not my choice. In fact, as you guys were watching maybe the highlight video and you saw me throwing a ball to Darren Sproles, it was probably like, both you guys should have stayed Chargers. But I love that guy, one of my favorite all-time teammates. But yeah, that was, you also recognize that, God's plan is different than your plan. Right. And, while I think I had it in my mind that I would always be a San Diego Charger and the quarterback of that franchise forever, that's obviously not what God had intended. Sure. And it's amazing how there's moments in your life where at the time you think, gosh, this is the worst thing that ever could have happened to me. This is not the way I drew it up. And then you look at it years later and you say, it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Right. And that injury, despite how difficult it was, despite the fact that I didn't want to leave San Diego, it led us to New Orleans and just the magic that happened there over the course of 15 years, not just on the football field, but everything in the community as well.
And what was it like being, when you were first in the league to when you ended in the league? So you were in the league for 20 years, right? And
yeah.
What was that evolution like? What was it like from a leadership perspective, dealing with younger players coming in?
Yeah. First off, I watch highlight videos from like the early 2000s before they started making some of these rule changes, and guys were getting destroyed when they went across the middle of the field as a receiver. I know that. Look, I played, the thing I most remember about stepping into the locker room for the first time in 2001 with the San Diego Chargers was Junior Seau and Rodney Harrison, right? Like, those dudes ran the team. Like, they were the leaders, they called the shots, you listened, but not even listened, like, you followed what they were doing because they set the tone, like they set the standard. And it wasn't just about what they were saying, like just watch their actions. First guys in the buildings, last one to leave. Every rep during practice was like a Super Bowl rep. So like, you want to learn how to be a pro, you want to learn how to be a leader, you want to learn what it's like to work and to like serve your teammates. Like, these guys were the absolute best. And so that's why I came in the league, like seeing and then wanting to emulate. And honestly, so much of, I think, what became my leadership style was derived from watching guys like that early in my career. You mentioned some of the research I was doing that Doug Flutie was a mentor of yours. Absolutely. One of my daughters is at Boston College, so we have to bring up Flutie. Yes. Yep. So what was that like with Doug Flutie? It was, first off, it was awesome because I could not have hand-selected a better mentor for me as a young quarterback in the league, but also a guy who just played the game the way that I played the game, and here was a guy who was 5'9.5", maybe. He'd tell you he's 5'10.5". He's lying. He's 5'9.5". But like, man, giant chip on the shoulder. Because you think about Doug. Like Doug, he went to the USFL to start, and then to the NFL. Bears traded to the Patriots, 8 years into the CFL, then the Buffalo Bills, has that whole thing with Rob Johnson there where he's the starter. He kind of gets bamboozled and, they put Rob in front of him. And then he comes to San Diego. But the guy played like 22 years of professional football if you add up all of those. And like, Doug Flutie was Patrick Mahomes before Patrick Mahomes. Like, the stuff you see Mahomes doing, no-look passes, back shoulder, I saw Doug Flutie doing that 25 years ago, like with ease. To me, he revolutionized the game, but he was just ahead of his time. And he never got the credit he deserved, but I got the benefit of seeing that every day and being a witness to that. And I'll never forget the first time I met Doug. He gets signed as a free agent, then I get drafted in the second round, LaDainian Tomlinson in the first round, I get drafted in the second round, no one. And I remember coming to the team meeting room for the first time, like, gosh, what am I gonna say to Doug Flutie? Like, this guy's a legend. And I remember seeing him in the front row, I go sit down next to him, I'm like, hey, Mr. Flutie. I'm like, oh, God. I was 5 years old when you threw that Hail Mary. I mean, yeah, he was 39, I was 22 years old. I mean, he was a legend in my eyes. But just to watch him work and be the professional that he was and play the game the way that he did, I think that's, if you ask me I think one of my strengths when I played was I was very observant, right? Like, I would sit back and I could observe, and then I would take what I was seeing and I would incorporate that into my game. Like, I would grab some of that skill set, right? Grab some of that knowledge, that wisdom, and just, so by the end of my career, I had kind of done that with so many guys. But Doug Flutie, just from watching him, and then look, the next year I was competing against him for the starting job. And then I ended up winning that starting job. And then he was basically my backup for 3 years. But such an incredible mentor. I owe him so much in my career.
I don't know if anybody's been in a Super Bowl before, but I haven't. So can you tell us what it was like to be in a Super Bowl? And then at the point where you knew you were going to win, what was that like?
I mean, it's the pinnacle of what you would say is what you're trying to accomplish as an NFL player, right? I mean, everybody talks about, getting a ring, right? Getting that championship ring. It's more so the journey. And I had a coach that used to say, as we were kind of leading up to those moments, you win a championship together, you walk together forever, right? So that's just emblazoned in my mind. And look, there's no truer statement. I mean, those guys are brothers for life, just everything that you go through. And really, that Super Bowl team for us, it wasn't just a one-year journey. I really saw it as a 4-year journey from 2006 when we all got there, when we had this magical run. That was reopening of the Superdome, September 25th, 2006, the Steve Gleason block punt, which is probably the greatest play in Saints history. And then just like everything, that culminated throughout that season to us going to the NFC Championship game. We lost at Chicago in 2006. And then 2007 and 2008 were a little bit of a reality check. It was like, we're really not as good as we thought we were. We were just kind of like riding high on the emotions of like our city and just, feeling like we were all, but we also recognized, hey, here's where the voids are. Here's where we need to get better. Here's where we need to improve. Here's the pieces we need to go get. And so by the time 2009 rolled around, it was like, we are going to go win a world championship. Like we knew it. And it was the most competitive offseason I've ever been a part of. Like the saying, iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. That was our mindset and our mentality. And so we kind of molded each other through training camp. And so then when we got to the season, it was like, we're not going to play anybody as good or as difficult as what we just went against every day in practice, right? And so we started off that season 13-0, and then we end up going and winning a championship. And look, the road through the playoffs, it was beat Kurt Warner, beat Brett Favre, and then beat Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl. But even getting ready for the Super Bowl week, this is what I love. So Sean Payton would always look for whatever he could, just for like little bits of motivation, And so I remember the first team meeting, he immediately put up the money line from Vegas on the game, and it was Colts by 7. And he's like, here's what I love about this. He's like, we're the better team, and nobody knows it yet, right? Yeah. So it's like that whole week, he would literally every day keep putting up the money line, and it slowly was ticking down, +6, +6, +5, +4, +3. So literally he was like, see, everybody's they're starting to realize you guys are the better team. So now it's like, hey, we just got to go out and prove it. The other thing that he did was, so we had this onside kick that we pulled out to start the second half. So he nicknamed it Ambush. And literally he had our punter was our kickoff guy, Thomas Morstead. So he had him practicing it for, the 2 weeks leading up to that game. Right. And he, again, came in a team meeting. He's like, so we have this play Ambush. It's not a matter of if we're calling it, it's when. So it's basically like, get ready. We're pulling out all the stops. Like, we're the better team. We're going to be going for it on fourth down. We're kicking onside kicks. Like, we're doing everything we can to win this game. So again, there was just this confidence that was built going into that game. And that was one of Sean Payton's great strengths. He was masterful at it. It's just being able to block out all the noise, narrow the focus, keys to victory. Let's go do it.
You're obviously famous on the field, but you're also famous off the field. So what you did for New Orleans when you got there and what you did outside of football, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know you've brought some of that to San Diego too. And we'll talk about FNA in a second. But can you just tell us what you did for the city of New Orleans?
My wife and I had a foundation that we started when I was with the San Diego Chargers in 2003 called the Brees Dream Foundation. And it was with a mission to improve the quality of life for patients with cancer, especially pediatric cancer. My wife had 2 aunts who passed away from cancer. One of those while we were in college at Purdue, and she lived in Chicago. So we would go and visit her aunt quite a bit. So we saw her go through lung cancer that went to her brain, and then she eventually passed away. And so we always knew that we wanted to establish a foundation that helped support those families and those going through that. When we got to New Orleans, we really broadened the scope of the foundation to include all the rebuilding efforts, because that was the greatest need of the community at the time. It was, how do we get all these people who are displaced and want to come back to the city, how do we get them back to the city? Well, many of them families, kids, so it's where my kid's going to go to school, where my kid's going to play, are there safe environments for them to succeed and thrive? And so it was immediately rebuilding schools, parks, playgrounds, athletic fields, funding childcare programs, mentorship programs, job skill training programs, all those things. And so that was the focus for 15 years. And like so many people, I felt like saw the blight in New Orleans and wanted to help, but didn't know how to do that, right? And you hear all those stories about money that came in. It's like, well, where did it go? And I think what we wanted to establish very early on, that we were a reliable, charity solution for anybody who wanted to help the city. Like, we were going to do what we said we were going to do. And a dollar in is a dollar out. Like, you know that your money is going to do everything that you hope that it'll do. Right. And so immediately we just started identifying projects. We spent the first year really getting to know people in the community, getting to know what the needs were. And then right off the bat, we picked 12 projects. 2 of them were involved with rebuilding schools. 1 of them was a park. 1 of them was a playground, et cetera, et cetera. And we basically said, okay, this is going to cost us $1.8 million. We're either going to go raise that money or it's coming out of my pocket, but we're going to follow through with it, and it's going to be done by X date. And so we were able to accomplish that. And then from there, I think just so many people began to support the foundation to allow us to continue to select more projects. And now I'd say that the foundation has kind of taken on another, 3.0, and that is we've engaged with the city of New Orleans on a public-private partnership to build affordable housing, which is still a great need. I feel like it's a great need everywhere. But also job skills training programs. We're funding 13 primary care health care facilities with the biggest healthcare system in Louisiana, Ochsner. So it's we've been able to raise or commit over $55 million through the foundation over the last 20 years.
It's impressive. Impressive. You've also brought youth sports to light in San Diego, but also other across the country as well. So football in America, can you tell us about that? Tell us how you started that, how you brought it to San Diego.
First off, I know what sports has meant for me in my life. I know what it meant for me as a kid. I think for all the parents in the room, I think you'd much rather have your kids out playing than staring at their screens, right? So we're always in that constant battle, as parents. But I think that's something that I'd say in life after football, it's where I've devoted a ton of area of emphasis. We started our own flag football league back in 2017 in Louisiana. It's called FNA, stands for Football in America. And we then brought that to San Diego, and now we've got about 30 leagues nationwide. We actually just partnered with a massive youth sports organization called Unrivaled Sports to continue to grow leagues organically, to put together really cool experiential flag football type events, leading up to what is going to be flag football in the Olympics in 2028 in LA, which is pretty awesome. So we're going to have a ton of involvement with that, a lot of planning going on now.
Yeah, women's or girls flag football is the fastest growing sport in high school. And we have the athletic director of USD, who's actually in the crowd tonight, Kimya, and they were talking about potentially adding that to college sports. So that leads me to, I think a lot of people may have this question, what are your thoughts on NIL? How do you think it's changed things or not? Or is it better? Is it worse? What are your thoughts?
How much time do we have?
We only have 10 minutes left.
All right. I think this system is awful. It's an awful, broken system right now.
Yeah.
I think we are robbing these kids of crucial character and leadership development opportunities.
Right.
And it's not the NIL component. It's really the transfer portal component. But I don't like to just identify problems. I like to identify solutions within the problems. So, the first thing I say is, NIL, do these kids deserve to be compensated based on their name, image, likeness? Yes, absolutely. But I think what you've created is a really weird dynamic in the locker room where, this guy comes in, promised a couple million, and this guy who's blocking for him is, just getting the bare minimum 25,000 or whatever, So, I think they should establish whatever's going to be kind of like the base that everybody gets. And then if you're somebody who is a top earner and you're earning a lot more than that, it should be deferred compensation. It shouldn't be money that you get to see right now. Because number one, you're 18, 19, 20 years old. Are you making the best decisions with that? No, you're not. Are you opening yourself up to being taken advantage of? Yes, you are. What are the chances that you actually go pro? Not very good, right? So why don't we put that as like a nest egg for them 10 years from now?
That's right.
When they're a lot more mature, they're a lot more able to handle what's coming their way, and they're all of a sudden in a position where it's like they're really having to think about what their next career is going to be. Right. And all of a sudden they have that deferred compensation from 10 years ago that's been interest-bearing somewhere, right?
Yeah.
That's my solution with NIL. Transfer portal, you should not let kids just up and transfer whenever they want. That's the dumbest thing ever. Again, how do you coach? How do you coach in college athletics right now, right? How do you really tough love a kid to try to get the best out of it? And how do you, if you're a kid or if you're a coach at a school like Purdue, right? That, man, you're going to have to go out and find some diamonds in the rough and develop these kids in order to compete, against the Michigans and Ohio States and all these others. The minute you go and find a diamond in the rough and you develop him into a great player and you've supported him, somebody else comes and offers him more money and he's out the door, right?
Yeah.
And he could do that as many times as he wants.
That's right.
So there's that component, but then there's also the component of, look, I think if you asked any of us, for the first couple of years of college, there was plenty of hardship. There was plenty of not getting what you wanted, right? There was plenty of disappointment and you having to fight through adversity and scratch and claw and kind of figure it out. And those were incredible developmental opportunities. Right. And you would not have become the player, the person you became without it. Right. I just think we're robbing these kids of that opportunity. So I just think there should be a minimum on the amount of seasons you should play before you have the opportunity to transfer, and you can transfer one time, and that's it, right? Imagine if you had to play we'll take football, 3 minimum seasons, okay? 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. You're gonna know after 3 seasons whether you have a future at that location or not, right? And there's exceptions. Coach leaves, they change the system, they get rid of your major, whatever. That's the other thing. Did we lose track of the fact that these are student athletes? You know what I'm saying? Maybe you make it, they have to have a minimum number of credits before you let them transfer. Yeah. How about that? Let's make school and education important again as a part of this.
How many vote for Drew actually taking over the whole thing with that? Listen, I want to open it up to questions from the audience. So please, if you have a question, wait for the microphone to get to you. But Drew's kind enough to answer some questions from the audience. So if anybody has a question, please let us know.
There's nothing about nuclear fusion.
We're not. Don't get AI.
Drew, thank you. That was very inspirational. Curious your thoughts on youth sports as far as younger kids, high school, with the club teams, the pressure in club and high school. What is your thoughts on what's working, what's not with that system?
I'm so glad you asked this question. And I'm sure everybody in this room is going to walk away like, gosh, he is really opinionated. That's another system that's a bit out of whack right now. First off, multi-sport athletes, right? I would encourage everybody to have their kids playing as many sports as they can for as long as they can, and do not specialize too soon. Don't let a club coach or anybody else tell you that that's not the right path. I think what we see with a lot of these pressures is, number one, it's pressure on the kid, it's pressure on the parents. In a lot of cases, I think a lot of that stuff's a money grab, but also all you're doing is you're just increasing the chances of burnout and overuse injuries with kids. I think that every sport carries over to the other. You learn different athletic movements, athletic positions, you're in different competitive situations, especially when it comes to just any team sports in general, right? The opportunity, the life lessons learned just by being a part of a team in a number of different arenas, I just think benefits you so much, not just within the world of athletics, but in life. And so I am a huge proponent of multi-sport. I believe that there's a season for everything. Year-round sports that's not the case. I mean, even when I was a professional football player, I would not touch a football from the moment the season ended until about May. I would do every other sport during that time. I literally just went to cross-train. I would go play tennis. Tennis is probably the sport that I credit the most to what I did as a quarterback, footwork, pocket movement. I was a switch hitter in baseball. Why? Well, I was a youth tennis player, and you got to hit forehand, backhand. So I just got used to seeing the ball right eye, left eye, and so I just became a switch hitter, right? Would I become a switch hitter without tennis? Probably not. So again, the way that all these sports cross over, lacrosse has become, we got lacrosse boys. Lacrosse has become one of my favorite sports. I wasn't exposed to that in Texas. It wasn't really a sport growing up. Now it's huge everywhere. I think lacrosse is one of the best crossover sports to everything you would possibly do. Hand-eye coordination, you basically become ambidextrous. You got to throw right, throw left. It's physical. You're running up and down the field, spatial awareness, just kind of how you're working offensively with picks and rolls and different things. It's basically basketball or basketball on grass, but on a much bigger field. So anyway, multi-sport as a result of all that.
Drew, as a New Orleans native myself, thank you for everything you did for the city, especially through Katrina and all that. But I do have to ask, how much fun was the 2010 Bacchus Parade during Mardi Gras?
So I've often said this, like riding in a Mardi Gras parade is like a top 5 life experience. It's like if you could bottle it up and sell it, oh my gosh. First off, like the city of New Orleans knows how to throw a party or like put on a festival, right? I mean, that's what they do. Look, I think people have this perception of Mardi Gras just being kind of wild and crazy, and I guess there are parts of town where if you want it to be that way, you can. But like the true Mardi Gras is truly like community event. It's people like walk out of their homes and just post up, on the sidewalk or on their balconies or whatever, and literally the floats just go by and they're throwing beads and doubloons and everybody's dressed up, and it's just so ingrained in the fabric of that community and the culture. And it's like New Orleans' way of like showing off for the rest of the world and on how proud they are of their culture. So I love the whole Mardi Gras experience, and I've had a chance to ride a few times, and there's really nothing like it. It's such an incredible experience.
Hey, Drew. It's Ty. Good
Yeah,
to see
man.
you.
What's going on?
How you doing? You're doing so many things, and you're very successful at, it seems like, everything you touch. Can you just talk about what your process is to achieving success every time you decide you want to do something different?
First off, Ty Montgomery, everybody. He was one of our running backs for a while. Yeah. A little bit of everything. You were catching a bunch of passes, too. You're multi-talented. I feel like, first and foremost, whether you're talking about leadership, whether you're talking about process, whether you're talking about preparation, I always felt a great sense of responsibility as a quarterback to always set the example and to try to set the standard for our organization, right? Our team, our locker room. So that had to go beyond words. That had to be everything that I was doing in the weight room, on the field. I wanted to be the first one there. I wanted to be the last one to leave. And not only did I just want people to see that and recognize that I was investing into the team, but also I wanted to bring people along for that ride as well. And so, you remember plenty of those moments where, man, we got receivers and we got running backs and everybody's coming into our QB room and we're watching tape together and we're talking through situations. We're taking that to the practice field and implementing it. I always wanted to give us the feeling like we were always ahead of the curve, that we were always kind of creating an edge for ourselves. I was huge into visualization as part of my preparation. There was no way that we could ever get the amount of reps in practice that would allow us to go through every possible scenario or every possible situation in a game. So I think it's probably what virtual reality has kind of taken the place of now, where you literally can put on goggles and you can like go through situations. But I felt like for most of my career, it was like I put on my own virtual reality goggles that didn't exist yet. And I visualized all of the situations and all of the things that could possibly happen in a game. Because what I wanted to feel like when we walked out on Sunday was that I had already played every situation in my mind a couple hundred times, and I'd already made the plays that were going to help us win the game. And so, in other words, I'd already won the game before we ever stepped on the field. And so by the time then you get to game day, it's like, okay, well, we've already won, so now we just get to go and kind of showcase that and just turn it loose and relax and have fun and play confident. And no matter what happens in this game, because there's always ebbs and flows, right? And momentum shifts and that sort of thing, it's always like, hey, there's going to be a moment at the end where we're going to have that chance to win, and we're going to go do it because we've already done it in our mind.
We have time for one more.
One last question.
Yes.
It's a quick one, but it has two sides to it. First, thanks for sharing your insights. I was wondering, as a parent and an athlete, what you would encourage other parents to say and not say as they develop their own athletes?
Yeah, that's a great question. And trust me, I've given this a lot of thought and probably struggled with this quite a bit. I think the greatest thing you can say to your kids is, I love to watch you play. and that it's really not about the result. It's about the process. It's about being the greatest teammate that you can be, just giving the greatest effort that you can give. Just worry about the things that you can control, I mean, look, I've had countless conversations with my kids about, well, I'm not getting this opportunity, I'm not getting a chance to play here, so-and-so this, so-and-so that, the coach this, the coach that. And so it's great opportunities to talk about, well, hey, what do you control, right? You control your attitude, you control your effort. What does it mean to be a great teammate, right? Allows you just to talk about that. It's becoming harder now where the kids are in high school and, there's more at stake, obviously, right? They get in the car and maybe literally this just happened yesterday with my son. He thought that he played bad, and you're trying to give him encouragement, and yet at the same time, it has to be on their terms. And that's hard to kind of swallow as a parent, because you just want to dive in right away, and get to the bottom of it. But you kind of just have to create a comfortable environment for them where hopefully they open up about it. And I am still at this stage with my boys. I've got a junior, a freshman, 8th grade boy, and then a 6th grade daughter. And my boys are all multi-sport. Football, basketball, lacrosse, they do martial arts. My daughter just does gymnastics, but she's the best athlete in the family, so the minute that's a perfect example. Whenever I try to get her, put a volleyball in her hand or throw a ball or lacrosse stick or anything, she just so I have to basically sit back and just, go over to her friends and say, hey, would you invite her to that volleyball camp that you're going to? Because if dad says to do it, she's not going to do it, but if her friend says, she will. But I think the main point is don't focus on the result. Just focus on the process. And I think more so than anything, they just want to hear that you love to watch them. You love to watch them play. You love to watch them compete. And then at some point, what I'm hoping is that my boys look at me and say, Dad, I want to be a college athlete. What do I need to do to get there? And then it's okay. I will tell you.
Well, I think we could be talking to Drew for 2-3 more hours, but just join me in thanking Drew for being here. Thank you so much. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.